Welcome in to another episode of the Barnes on Bama podcast. I'm your host, Owen Barnes, and we have a lot to discuss. First things first, I want to thank all the new subscribers, thank all the people who are returning. I really do appreciate all the support. I know we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We want to try to get there as quickly as possible, hopefully before the start of 2026, potentially even the start of basketball season. I know you guys can get me there. I really do appreciate all the support and all the new people over the past little while. As always, if you are not currently subscribed to the channel, because I know about 80% of the people that watch these videos are not, if you could do me a favor and subscribe, I really would appreciate it. As always, if you hear any ads, that's because I am a part of the Believe Podcast Network, and so anything you could do to support those sponsors does help me out as well. That's also part of the reason why I'm able to have a lot of collabs, and I do have some potential additional collabs coming later on in the season. Some fans of some other teams that I plan to bring on the week of those games, etc. Like I know that I've got some Tennessee fans that I have planned to bring on for that game, South Carolina, and others. So if you have anybody else that you might be interested in having me talk to the week of the game, just shoot me a comment, send me an email. All of my contact information you can find on the YouTube channel. Be happy to talk to anybody who might be interested. But we got a lot to discuss, and we got to start with the breaking news. And as of the time of this recording, I'm recording this about 8:30 Monday night. Plan to drop this first thing Tuesday morning. But Ty Simpson has been officially named the starting quarterback for the University of Alabama. It was first reported by Chris Lowe and Colin Gay of Tuscaloosa News. There have been Pete Nakos and others have officially, said it as well. And then to, put the icing on the cake, Yay Alabama drops an interview with Ty Simpson saying, first exclusive interview with quarterback one. So at this point, it is all but guaranteed, right? It is 100% guaranteed, from the news media as well as the official public sources within the university, being the NIL collective, have said Ty Simpson is your starting quarterback. So that answers the question who your starting quarterback is. This is something that we've talked about. I talked to Nick Kelly about him. I talked to, all of my guests over the summer. I really asked them about Ty Simpson, and all of us kind of had the, expectation of Ty Simpson's your quarterback one. And unless he gives you some massive reason to not be the quarterback, he will be your quarterback moving forward. And myself and others are under the mindset that Ty Simpson is going to be very good, right? So as we go into talking about Ty Simpson, I'm personally of the mindset, right? I want to think about the offense. I'm personally of the mindset that not only is Ty Simpson going to be a starting quarterback, I've said on this program multiple times, I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. I would not be shocked if he was a top 3 quarterback in the SEC. I know that's high praise, but I do think that his skill set combined with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer, as well as the receiver talent and running back talent that he has, I think that he's going to have enough talent around him. And he is, he has the pedigree and the arm talent and the command of the offense that I think he is going to be at a level where he is going to be a top 3 to 5 quarterback in the SEC. I firmly believe that. As I also said in one of my more recent episodes when I was talking about my kind of predictions, one of the things that had been said is last season was one of the first seasons that Kalen DeBoer did not have a 4,000-yard passer. In almost every other season, Kalen DeBoer had a 4,000-yard passer. And that just speaks to how good he is at developing the quarterback position, the type of offense that he runs, and how much trust that he has in his passers. I think that Ty Simpson is going to be the next in that line of 4,000-yard passers, right? And again, this is just going to what has Kalen DeBoer done from a development of quarterback perspective, right? You have your Jake Hayners of the world. You have your, of course, Michael Penix Jr.'s. You have these guys that have shown an ability to, thrive in his offense. And, it's the reason why Michael Penix goes from Indiana to Washington and has the success that he has. Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb have had a ton of success with the quarterback position. I think you also have to look at the fact that, again, the receiver talent that you have. We've talked obviously at length about Ryan Williams. You've got Jeremy Bernard, which I expect to have a massive breakout season. That's without talking about Isaiah Horton, which I have heard a lot of really good things out about him. Obviously, the transfer from Miami. He is a name that I don't think is being talked about enough within Alabama circles, you're hearing him talked about a good bit, but he's not one that's being talked about a ton. Clint Lamb really likes Rico Scott for that wide receiver 4. I know some others potentially like a lot Zero Brooks or Jalen Hale coming back. You have plenty of guys that I think are going to slide into that position. We haven't even talked about our guys switching over from the corner side, right? So we have plenty of plenty of players that I think are going to be, impact position guys at that wide receiver position. And then you have a guy throwing the rock to them, a quarterback that I think is going to have absolute and total command of the offense. And I think he's going to have a command of the offense in a way that Jalen Milroe just didn't have, right? When we talk about Jalen Milroe, you talk about his athleticism first, right? Not to say that he wasn't skilled at the quarterback position, because at times he was, but there obviously were shortcomings that he had. Like, he threw a great deep ball. His intermediate and short game definitely needed work. Sometimes his, understanding where pressures were coming from needed work. Maybe his, communication with the offensive line and making sure that they understood where the pressures were coming from needed work, right? There were things that he definitely had to work on, but there were also things that he did really well. I think that what Ty Simpson's going to bring you is a guy that's been in the offense for a very long time. Or, been in the system for a very long time, I guess I should say. Obviously, it's only his second year with Kalen DeBoer. But he's obviously been with those offensive linemen for quite some time at this point. He has a command and a respect of the players. For those of you unaware, I know I posted a video on it last season, and there's actually the next season one is coming up here this next week. But last year, the church that I go to, Calvary Baptist Church, there next to the campus and right next to the stadium, there is a thing called Squad Sunday where all the football players come in, they worship with everybody, and they present their Christian Brotherly Award to who kind of they think leads them from a Christian perspective. And Ty Simpson was one of the winners of that award last season, right? This is a person that has a huge amount of respect within his teammates, on the field, off the field. You've seen collabs with him, obviously with the camo NIL deal. You saw him taking guys hunting. Just in general, I think that Ty Simpson has a lot of respect in that locker room. Additionally, the fact that I'm sure he had people throwing NIL money at him to transfer somewhere else to be a guaranteed starter. He has a ton of respect from that sense that he stayed with Kalen DeBoer through thick and thin, right? This is a situation of he was not named the starting quarterback last season. Many people think that he was the better quarterback last season, just didn't have the control from an NIL and other reasons, right? We've talked at length about all the things that kind of were at play last season. But I think that Ty Simpson has a respect of the team that's kind of hard to quantify. And I think that when you have a quarterback that has that level of respect with the team and also has that level of connection with the players, I think that that's what you get, right? You combine that with incredible wide receiver talent that we've talked about. You got really, really good offensive line talent, right? No matter who's going to play. You obviously have your guarantees with like Caden Proctor and, a couple of others, but you have a very good line. I think that obviously you have a couple of question marks. I know Gino Vandermark has been competing for a spot. You have 6 or 7 guys really competing for 5 spots currently. Very curious to see how that fully works out. But a few of those, obviously Parker Brailsford, Caden Proctor, there are a few of those that are definitely set in stone at this point. And I think that you have a really, really good offensive line. And then Ryan Grubb is asked about the running game, and he responds with basically one name, and it's Jam Miller. He wasn't even asked who's the running back that's looking the best. He said, how do you think the running game is going to be this year? And he just goes, Jam Miller, right? That's a guy who Alabama fans should know very, very well. Obviously, last season he splits some carries with Justice Haynes. That is no more. Haynes is gone. So now you really have it's the Jam Miller show. Additionally, on top of that, of just having Jam Miller, he has been by far your best pass blocking running back. So he's going to compete, obviously, in the he's going to be a 3-down back, right? He's going to be there to be able to be pass blocking. He's also going to be able to run between the tackles. He's not a guy that's, real super twitchy, but he does have, quick step. He can obviously make people miss. He's just not going to be one that's just going to, nonstop move after move after move, but he definitely has that ability to make guys miss. He's also can be a bruiser, right? He has the ability to run through guys. He can kind of do a little bit of it all. But I expect him to be the main stalwart running back this upcoming season, right? He's going to get, I know I heard Clint Lamb say he thinks somewhere between 12 and 15 carries a game. I think that's completely reasonable to think out of Jam Miller. And again, he's somebody that can be on the field the whole time because of his ability to pass block. Then you see what we did with him last season. You also can have him coming out of the backfield, and he has good enough hands that he can be a pass catcher out of the backfield as well, right? So I think that he is going to be your running back that is going to be featured for a huge percentage of the season, right? So when you think about a quarterback, and when you talk about the quarterback position, you have to think about the quarterback as a whole. Not just, is this quarterback good? Do they have good arm talent? Because the best quarterback in the world, if they have nobody to throw to and no offensive line and no running back to help take pressure off them, they're going to look atrocious, right? You see it time and time and time again, right? Think about the NFL. You have these quarterbacks that get drafted number 1 overall and then just look like they get absolutely eaten alive because they have nobody to do anything with, right? It's like a very common issue in the NFL, and it has nothing to do with the quarterback being bad. It partially has to do with the system around him, right? So we take that to Alabama. You have Ty Simpson coming in. You know that he's going to have very, very good receivers, right? No matter what you think about the guys behind your Ryan Williams and Isaiah Horton and Jeremy Bernard, you minimum have 3 elite guys, and you potentially have others behind them. Then you have one very, very good running back at a minimum in Jam Miller, right? A guy that you've seen a lot of success out of. You know what you're getting with Jam Miller, and a guy that Ryan Grubb, that didn't even coach him last season. It's like, the running game's going to be perfect. You got Jam Miller. You have your offensive line, right? Again, your offensive line, it's going to be good. You're not super concerned. Obviously, there are a few question marks. There are a few positions that are still being battled out. But the offensive line is by and large going to be pretty good. You're not super concerned. Your tight end position, right? Again, what you're getting out of the tight end position. Cuevas and some of the others, that you're going to be playing those guys. You have some other freshmen that are going to help compete. But that in general, your tight end position is going to be fine. Now you look at Ty Simpson from that standpoint. A guy who's been in the program for quite some time. A guy that's obviously played under DeBoer has learned under DeBoer for an entire season. A guy who has the respect of the locker room. A guy who has a really, really good situation around him. What does Ty Simpson look like now? He looks like a great quarterback in a great position, and he's going to have all the support behind him, and I fully expect that's part of your reason why Ty Simpson comes in and absolutely dominates. I think that he does incredibly, incredibly well. I expect a big game out of him against Florida State. I think that, this is going to be a great situation for Ty Simpson. Obviously, he's a much more DeBoer-style quarterback. He is a much better fit for what DeBoer wants to do. But all of that being said, do not think of Ty Simpson as a guy who is going to stand back there and be a statue. You're not going to see as many quarterback runs as you saw out of Jalen Milroe, but I would not be shocked if you see Kalen DeBoer putting some wrinkles of what happened with Jalen Milroe last season into Ty Simpson, because Ty Simpson has better wheels and has better mobility than people give him credit for. He can move with the football. He can maneuver the pocket. He can do a lot of things. Is he a pass first guy? Absolutely. He's not like Jalen where he's, wanting to run more often than wanting to pass, but he absolutely has the wheels that if they get him in a position where he needs to run, he can absolutely run. He's a big guy. He's a good runner. So don't think that he's just going to be a statue back there with any inability to run. This is not Greg McElroy. This is somebody that actually has some wheels. So just think about that when you're talking Ty Simpson. The next thing I want to talk about is still on the offensive side of the football. And it's really, and like I said, I know we're kind of pounding the offensive side of the football. We will talk kind of at length as things continue to come up. But wanted to talk also a little bit about what I think the importance of Ryan Grubb is. I know we've talked about him a lot over this offseason, but now we've heard some scrimmages. Scrimmages happened. Fall practice is obviously well underway. You've heard different things. Alabama's been in full pads a couple of times. You're seeing more guys doing drills. And I think that more things are starting to take shape you're starting to hear more whispers about what Ryan Grubb is going to be able to mean for the offense. And personally, I look at it this way. And I've said this and I will say it until I'm blue in the face. The fact that Ryan Grubb has been with Kalen DeBoer a huge amount of the time that Kalen DeBoer has been successful, in my opinion, is not a fluke. Ryan Grubb is a guy who is absolutely incredibly good at calling plays. Obviously, him and Kalen DeBoer have been able to workshop their system together. And there is a reason that Ryan Grubb's talents were wanted at the NFL level. Obviously, he actually did well in the NFL, but, it didn't work out. He decided, hey, it's time to come back to college, time to come to Kalen DeBoer. And I think that when you have a guy like Ryan Grubb, I think also the importance of Ryan Grubb cannot be overstated. The fact that you kept Nick Sheridan and you kept Jamarcus Shepard. The fact that you keep Jamarcus Shepard and Nick Sheridan, which were both co-offensive coordinators last season when Nick Sheridan calling the plays and Jamarcus Shepard being, mostly your wide receivers coach, is a huge deal. And the reason I consider that such a huge deal is this is the staff that he had at Washington, right? The staff that, honestly got Kalen DeBoer hired, right? Because not to say that he wasn't a good coach at Fresno State, because he was, or not to say that he wasn't a good coordinator at Indiana, because he was, but the reason why he was hired for the Alabama job, on top of his, pedigree of success and pedigree of winning, was what he did at Washington with inferior talent. And a big piece of what he was able to do at Washington with inferior talent was on the offensive side of the football, right? Now, do I think the defense at Alabama has been better than what you saw at Washington? Absolutely, right? I think that Kane Womack has done a phenomenal job. I think that being able to get Kane Womack from South Alabama last season and what he's been able to do on top of all the returners, I've talked at length about how good I think this defense is going to be this upcoming season. This defense is going to be phenomenal, right? There's no other way to say it. I think the defense is going to be really, really good. But obviously, I think the strides where you can take them this season is on offense. And that's not to say that Alabama had a poor offense last season. No, but there were a few games that Alabama definitely you could circle that the offense cost the team the game, right? The Oklahoma game, absolutely, the offense cost you the game. The Tennessee game, the offense cost you the game. The Michigan game, the offense cost you the game. Those three losses, you can guarantee that the offense cost you all three games. The only one that you can say the defense cost you the game was the Vanderbilt game, right? Now, did the offense also, give Vandy back the football a couple times and have some issues? Sure. But the defense could not get Vanderbilt off the field, so the defense really cost you that one. In the other three losses, it was clearly the offense that lost you the game. Now, did the offense also win you some games? Absolutely. Like LSU, I thought that was this perfect situation of the offense was clicking on all cylinders, and it worked out great. But last year, it was kind of you had to take the good with the bad, or the bad with the good, honestly. And that's where I think the difference in this season is. I think that when you have a guy like Ty Simpson, it raises your floor. Does it potentially lower your ceiling? I say no. Some may argue yes, but I think at a minimum it raises your floor. And that's the more important side, right? Because if you had, mid-tier quarterback play in that Oklahoma game, you beat Oklahoma. If you had mid-tier quarterback play in that Tennessee game, you beat Tennessee, right? Your offense was doing what it took, your defense was doing what it took to win those games. Your offense was just doing them no favors. And that's where I think Ryan Grubb, what he additionally brings for you, right? Was it also on the quarterback? Absolutely, right? Can't go without saying Ryan Grubb is going to look substantially better than Nick Sheridan looked last season because of the quarterback that Ryan Grubb has to work with and the skill set that he has to work with within the system as compared to what Nick Sheridan has, right? It's not fair to judge Nick Sheridan on the quarterback and the situation that he was dealt, right? Now, he was dealt it. You saw what happened. But it's still not fair to fully judge Nick Sheridan based on the offensive skill set and what Kalen DeBoer's offense is and what Jalen Milroe's skill set was, right? That's not fair if we try to judge Nick Sheridan by that. However, I would say that even without that, right, whether we want to judge Nick Sheridan positively or negatively, I don't think that matters. I think that what really matters is that Ryan Grubb isn't going to be put in that position, right? We can, debate whether Nick Sheridan should or should not be judged based on what happened last season, and I'm okay with that argument. However, what we guaranteed can't worry about is that Ryan Grubb isn't going to have to deal with that, right? The quarterback that Ryan Grubb is being put in front of him is a more Kalen DeBoer style quarterback, is a guy who has some extra time in the system, is a guy who has some extra, is being named before the first game, right? This is This is earlier than Alabama has officially named a quarterback in quite some time, right? Nick Saban was kind of well known for he didn't name a starting quarterback until the very, very end. Kalen DeBoer is naming his starting quarterback, 3 weeks before the start of the season. This is a big deal, right? This is a very big deal that you're naming your quarterback this early. Additionally, what it does is it fully puts your faith behind your starting quarterback of, hey, this is our number one guy. In all the rest of the scrimmages that we have upcoming, this is going to be our number one guy. This guy is going to be playing with all the ones. He's going to be throwing to the number one receivers. He's going to be having the number one center snap to him. He's going to be going against the number one defense, whatever, right? End to end, he is the number one guy. And that's very important, right? And the reason that's so important is that, again, that allows him to be able to know that, hey, I have the entire faith of the coaching staff behind me. I have the entire players behind me. I have the support staff behind me. I have everyone behind me. And our common goal is that we are going to try to win a national championship. And I'm the guy who they've chosen to do that with, right? Ryan Grubb is going to get all of that, right? So I definitely look at Nick Sheridan as not being the reason why so many things last season went wrong. But Ryan Grubb, in comparison to Nick Sheridan, I think he's going to get some additional praise this season, and he's going to be partially made to look a lot better because he has Ty Simpson throwing the football, right? I think Ryan Grubb also just has some extra comfortability with calling plays. And then when you combine all of that with the fact that Ryan Grubb gives you that little bit of edge that Kalen DeBoer is lacking, and what I mean by that is the good cop, bad cop that we've heard on multiple occasions, Ryan Grubb being able to be a little bit more bad cop to Kalen DeBoer's good cop. I think that if things are going well, you don't always have to have the good cop, bad cop. But the minute that things don't always go well, aren't going as well, some players and some people respond better to other forms of punishment, right? Just the constant encouragement is not always what everyone needs. So the fact that you have a guy in Ryan Grubb that's has a little bit more edge to him, a guy that's a little bit more in your face. I don't want to say mean. That's not what I mean, but like a little bit more, aggressive as compared to Kalen DeBoer. I think that there's additional benefit to that, right? And I think that that's something that Alabama was slightly lacking last season. Because I don't think Nick Sheridan was able to go against Kalen DeBoer in the same way. I think that Nick Sheridan was a little bit more positive of a guy. And so they didn't have the good cop, bad cop situation that he has with Ryan Grubb. Again, not to say that that's the only way that you can coach or that that's the only way that they're able to be successful, but I do think that you are getting that back when you have Ryan Grubb, and I think that you have to mention it if you're going to talk about, the benefits of having Ryan Grubb back this season. Simply put, I think that naming Ty Simpson your starting quarterback, combine that with the fact that you have Ryan Grubb returning as your offensive coordinator, this Kalen DeBoer team is going to look at like a much more Kalen DeBoer style offense. This is going to be a much better offense than last season, in my opinion. This is going to be a much more well-rounded team when you combine the fact that I expect that the offense is going to be very good, and plenty of people have talked about how good the defense is going to be. The defense has been well documented to be one of the better defenses in the entire country, especially with who you have returning. The fact that Ty Simpson, if Ty Simpson is able to perform to the level that I think he is capable, the sky's the limit for this team. Because when most people are looking at Alabama and where they're being ranked in your preseason polls and where they're being ranked by other people, whether they be in previews or otherwise, the question mark is the quarterback. Now, Kalen DeBoer is given some levels of trust because of how well he's been able to develop that position, but the question mark at the highest level still has to be the quarterback. And again, the fact that you're naming Ty Simpson this early and the fact that you've heard over and over and over again about how much control of the offense he's had, I think speaks volumes. And I'm excited to see what a Kalen DeBoer, Ty Simpson-led team is going to look like this upcoming season. So, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Like I said, I really do appreciate it. I have another episode that I plan to record this week. We're back to the 2 episodes a week. Sorry for all the delays the last couple of weeks. I know I've said that, we're going back to 2. Like I said, I've had a lot going on, and it's just been a slow news cycle the last little bit. But now we're in August. We've got starting quarterbacks being named. We've got basketball news that's coming up. I know the Field of 68 guys just did their Alabama preview. I also have some Southeastern 16 guys that I plan to talk to. We have plenty of stuff upcoming, so even if I have to bring in some guests, I plan to, just have 2 episodes a week for the foreseeable future. So if you have any guests or anybody that you would be interested in having me talk to, please let me know. I would appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode. Peace.